nafikiri bila shaka ni kwamba Waziri wa Fedha Ukur Yatani amekana madai kwamba ni kiwango cha shilingi milioni 93 peke yake ambacho kilipatikana na uongozi wa Rais William Ruto. Waziri Yatani alikuwa akihutubia kongamano la mafunzo ya Maseneta mjini Naivasha, ambapo mwandishi wetu Seth Olale tunaungana naye moja kwa moja sasa atupashe ni yapi yaliyozungumzwa kwenye mkutano huo.
Na asante sana, yaliyozungumzwa ni mengi hapa katika eneo la Naivasha. Kumbuka kwamba hii ni kongamano la mafunzo kwa Maseneta, na hii leo mojawapo wa wale walioweza kuhudhuria na vile kueleza tu kutoa mwelekeo kwa Maseneta hapa ni Waziri wa Fedha Ukur Yatani. Na Ukur uliweza kusema tu hapo awali kwamba ni muhimu kwamba bunge la Seneti ichukue wajibu wake wa kulinda ugatuzi na hasa zile fedha ambazo zinatumika.
I think for the benefit of my thoughts, I'll speak in English. It's a good day. It's a very important occasion. I had a privilege to sit with the senators, both the old and the new ones, to take them through the budget process, and I'm very happy that they were keen. And it's my expectation that they're going to utilize the interaction that we've had today to make themselves up to date in terms of managing and interrogating the budget process, and particularly being the custodian of the counties. It's really important that they take keen interest in what happens at the county level, funds disbursement, and also the way allocations done, auditing, flow of. Generally, it will equip them with all the necessary tools to make sure that they play their roles effectively as required. And also, we had an opportunity to demystify a number of areas, misconception about the National Treasury. Because there are cases where, for political expediency, people like to talk about debt and try to associate with a political regime. No, we have debts dating back to before independence.
And even clarified today, CS, that even claims by a number of politicians that about the 90 million shillings or so being disbursed, it is what that has been found. And you clarified there that on a daily basis the government receives money and distributes it to sectors depending with needs. Then maybe you just want to clarify that point.
I think some politicians could be pardoned because maybe they are new on this platform and they think, and for sure they need to learn a lot. Government does not operate in a situation where you make money and spend. You make money whenever you raise revenue, you spend it. And you spend it against the budget. And the budget, there are many institutions that are entitled to the appropriated budget, whether Senate, whether National Assembly, or the generally Parliament as the other arm of government, judiciary and the national government, but also the county. So what we do, we raise revenue on a daily basis, and based on that, we distribute to the various competing interests. A number of them are mainly in the security sector that usually gets priority, because if this country is not secure, if they are not well funded, if they are not well provided for, then our other needs can also be in jeopardy. So we do that, and we've come here to demystify, mainly with the senators, but even with other politicians. But they should take time to learn. They should take time to learn the budget process, so that they are not construed to be ignorant of what they are saying.
And also, before you go ahead, CS, you also talked about issues to do with the CDF, and the position of the Treasury is that it will follow the ruling of the Supreme Court declaring CDF illegal. Does this mean that it will not be disbursed?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, the Supreme Court has made a pronouncement that CDF as it is illegal, and therefore we are not going to disburse funds, but we sought advice from the Attorney General for further direction, because I know it's a very sensitive matter. It's a matter that politicians, mainly the ones in the National Assembly, hold very dear. To some extent, it has also changed lives of the people, but also don't rule to a great extent. Also, there has been a lot of wastage in terms of the accounting and for resources. So whatever decision that will be, whatever advice that we are going to get from the Attorney General is what we are going to go by. But as it is, it's been rendered illegal by the Supreme Court. but we are waiting for further direction from the Attorney General. I also want to take the opportunity also to demystify the issue of debt. This country, like any other country, we have a budget projections in terms of how much revenue we are going to raise and our own expenditure. And to some extent, sometimes our expenditure outweighs the revenue we generate. And it's not only Kenya, but world over. And that's why we have a room for borrowing. And to a great extent, it's been quite modest, like, 6%. This year is going to, last year we closed at 6.3%, and we are looking better, trying to adjust to 5%, and the long term eliminate budget deficit, because that's what results of borrowing. But for us to do this, we need understanding. If we don't borrow, then we are not going to realize all these development priorities that we've set for ourselves. And these development priorities, particularly in the infrastructure and other sectors, are key, are very important, because they stimulate the economy. It makes us grow better, faster, and in a manner that's going to support the general create employment for our people. So that's why we borrow to realize faster development, but in the meantime, then we do it sustainably. And for the last 4 years, we've never borrowed commercially. When we borrow from the multilateral window, where the interest rate is the average of 0.2% and payable over a 30-40-year period. We think that is concessional, that is sustainable, but because the longer-term effect, the positive side of it, will be to the general population of our people. And that's why I want to assure Kenyans that our borrowing is highly sustainable as it is. We need to forget about too much politics around it. They need to be guided and supported by facts, and the facts at the National Treasury that we are willing to provide anytime the way we've done it today. We should not weaponize the issue of debt management. We should not also unnecessarily politicize the extent of trying to depict individuals or regimes in bad light. We should also now counter-check this with the development gains that we've made for the betterment and welfare of our people.
Maybe someone would ask, because you've touched on the debt, how bad is our debt in terms of facilitating it?
I have said it before, there's no country under the sun that's not borrowing to meet its development priorities. If I give you the example of countries like let's say Japan, their borrowing stands their debt stands at 250% of GDP. US over 100%, UK over 110%, very many other countries, we are at about 60%. That does not necessarily mean that, our debts are not sustainable. Our debts are highly sustainable, but we have worked on a close fiscal consolidation path by reducing on expenditure and realizing more revenue, so that, we'll be self-sufficient in terms of managing our budget.
And just what the president said, that we are living beyond our means, and it's high time that, there needs to be a balance.
Well, I cannot comment on what my president has said. I think you'd rather ask him. But, under the previous regime, where I effectively served as a cabinet secretary and up to date, our mix has been extremely good. And don't forget this country. The last year alone, we realized a GDP growth of 7.5%, unheard of in the last 15 years. Our revenue growth has increased by 22.5%, now passing the 2 trillion mark. We've reduced our budget deficit from 8.3 to 6.3 and going and getting better. So when you look at those parameters, the actual index of the economy, I am happy with it. How others want to view it, that is their own issue. But we are under President Uhuru Kenyatta. We think we have done well and we can prove for it. The facts are there, and we want to hand over an economy to whoever is going to take over when things, the indicators are doing well.
Finally,
to be judged on facts, not on hearsay. And finally, willing to support with the current government to provide all the necessary information and support as they settle in the office.
Finally, Bwana CS, and thank you for that clarification. In terms of coffers, how much do we have?
I think there's a misconception. The issue about coffers is a real misconception. I said indicated here, we fund our budget based on the revenue we generate. every financial year we present a budget. We have an approved budget that tells us this is our proposed expenditure, and we are going to finance it from these sources. This amount from donor revenue, this amount from charges committed in the course of discharging government services like appropriation in aid, and in the process also, to a limited extent, we borrow. So we've been able to meet all our obligations, including debt payment, including payment of salaries, including all our recurrent, including all our development. So we're up to date with implementation of our budget as passed by Parliament.
Na asante sana. Huyo ni Waziri wa Fedha Ukur Yatani akifafanua tu yale ambayo aliweza tu kuelezea hapa maseneta 67 ambao wamekusanyika hapa katika eneo la Naivasha. Kumbuka kwamba hii ni siku ya 4 ya kongamano la mafunzo kwa maseneta hawa kuhusu tu maswali mbalimbali yanayoangazia ugatuzi. Kwako studioni.
Taarifa ndefu hiyo ya Seth Olale kutoka Naivasha.